Welcome to the JavaScript 2 topic video. This set of slides covers JavaScript control, loops, and arrays. So our goals are going to be learn about and try out some of the JavaScript control structures. There are a lot of them. We're not going to use them all right now, so I'm not going to demonstrate all of them that I'm going to talk about right now. We're going to see some of the many loop types available in JavaScript, and we're going to learn about JavaScript arrays and their methods. This is just the first of many times the number of times we're going to talk about JavaScript arrays and methods. Our readings, once again, please read the readings. They probably cover it better than I can. Use these notes to review quickly. Control flow. Just like C++ and Java, we use blocks to group our statements. Okay, so that's the braces things. Okay, so wake up. Let's learn about variable scoping. Well, let's talk about it a little bit right now by doing. Okay, so what we're going to do here, I'm going to open up the extra little editor here. Can I do the following? Start a block, and can I just run a block? It's empty, it's got nothing in it. Yeah, no problem. Okay, can I declare a variable in a block? Let my var equals 5. Can I do that? Okay. Let's console log my var. Ooh, why are they showing that in purple? Run it. Ha! Uncaught reference error. My var1 is not defined? Look. It's defined right here. What's going on here? Copy and paste my var. Okay. Run it. Wait a second. It printed out 5. This is what we meant by block scope. When you define a variable in a block, okay, with let, okay, because let has normal scoping rules, you won't see that variable outside that block. So blocks are used for what? For loops, if statements, etc. Okay, so you don't usually pull out blocks and do stuff with them just randomly like this, but I did. Okay, and it was helpful because you could actually see the scoping rules work right in front of our eyes. We defined my var 5 within this block. Then we tried to use it outside the block where it's no longer defined. Okay, and we saw actually some nice syntax highlighting showing us that actually it's not defined. We have a problem. Okay, sounds good. Okay, made a nice mess. Okay, so blocks, just with braces. Okay, we've got if statements just like C++ and Java. Okay, you don't have to have the block here. Right, the block that's going right there. However, most people want to add in extra statements and things like that, so we almost always, for good style, put blocks for each one of these places. Right, you could have a single statement after the if, or a block. We almost always, in good form programming style, always use blocks on the ifs and the elses and such like that. Ooh, that's ugly. I'm going to clear that so we don't have to look at that ugly stuff. Clear it all. Okay. So if statements, if and else. Okay. Let's try one of these things to see how this works. Sometimes you'll see very terse JavaScript conditional statements. These take advantage of the following evaluating the false in an if. Okay, false obviously counts as false. Undefined counts as false. Null counts as false. 0 and nan. And the empty string of all things. Let's see how this works. Okay, so let's go back. Control-Shift-I, or at least on Windows. Okay, I'm going to bring up the block editor, okay, so we can run things multiple times. So, I said, okay, if empty string. If it's true, I got to do console.log. This thing is considered true. And then, of course, we'll do an else. Okay. Else. We'll do another statement here, but this time, the else part means it's going to be the branch we take if the thing's false. This thing is considered false. Okay. Let's run it. Click. This thing is considered false. So the empty string is considered false. Let's put something in there. This thing, where am I looking? Over here, is considered true. Okay. Let's put in null, N-U-L-L. Okay, that's a legitimate value. Okay, we're going to see null later on more. This thing, I'm looking way down over here, is considered false. Ah, an easy way to check these things. Undefined. How can we do an undefined? I'm going to do a statement here. I'll go var my var 17. Okay, and then I'm going to go and check my var. What is the value of my var? It is undefined, right? We haven't defined anything. So let's try running that. Okay, this thing is considered false. Okay. You can try out the rest of these yourself, but that gives you a good idea. Okay. Falsy values, you'll see some very terse code, and yeah, sometimes I do this myself, mostly when we get to React to make real quick checks of certain things. Okay, so it can make the code a little harder to read, but people use them, even I use them. Okay, what other kind of statements do we have? Similar to C++ and Java, okay? However, the labels are almost always strings. There could be integers. You don't want to use floating points there. But we use strings, and it's quite convenient, okay? Don't forget the break statements. It's got the same issues like you had in Java and C++. And default's always good. I'm going to save examples for this until we're going to use switches a lot more when we do stuff with React. Okay, we're going to do a lot of conditional rendering of our user interfaces. So we're going to use switches all the time with React, or at least as the base of our applications in React. Okay, exceptions. Like C++, Java, and Python, JavaScript supports exceptions. Okay, there's a throw statement, and then you have catch and try blocks when you want to handle these things. Okay, I'm not going to give you a bunch of examples now because we're not going to use these too much until we get to dealing with network stuff. Anytime we're dealing with network things like that, we're going to have to take into account that we can have exceptional circumstances, or maybe when we do a little bit of work with databases and stuff like that. Okay, so that's when we're going to come back and do stuff with exceptions, because I always forget the syntax, but we'll need them when we get into networking stuff, when we start doing fetches and things like that. Loops. We get for statements, okay? And so we should practice and try them out, okay? for initial expression, we have to declare our loop variable if it isn't already declared. Okay. By declaring, okay, then we have your less than, some kind of conditional, doesn't have to be less than, some kind of increment expression. Okay. Like you saw back in C, C++, Java, type of thing. But we can practice easily. It's always easy to check out that and remind ourselves of our syntax. What is this going to do? It's going to iterate from 0 to 9. Okay, so it's going to print out the cubes. Okay, and of values, and it's going to print out something nicely. So let's see. 0 cubed is 0. 1 cubed is 1. 2 cubed is 8. Ah, okay. Nice. Okay. You can modify it. Oops. Sorry, I was trying to execute the statement. Remember, use your up arrow keys to see your history on the dev thing. So we can easily go back and go something like 8, 13, run the loop again, and we can see those numbers. Okay, get used to it, because a lot of times you try out some sample code over in the dev thing if you're having trouble figuring out what's going wrong. Do statements and do while. So do the statement while the condition. So this will do something first. Okay, then it'll check the condition. A little different. Okay. Just to prove to you that I made all these things for you to do as well. Let's try that loop. Okay. We started with I equals 3. So we do the loop for I equals 3, and we only run it until I is less than 5. 3, 4. Okay. Easy peasy. Syntax of loops, easy to forget. So just take a look at these examples, or MDN, or a JavaScript cheat sheet. While statements. Okay. While does the condition first, then checks the condition first, then executes the code. Try it out. Code copy, paste. Code the web. Okay. Oopsies. While message is less than 40. Oh, a little bit more interesting check. I kept adding the web to the messages. Ah, got it. Okay. Break statements used to terminate a loop early. Okay. Continue statements are used to restart the loop. Okay. These are useful in certain algorithms and things like that, and such like that. If you got a need for one, you kind of know that they exist, and you can look them up. Okay. Not used all that often. We won't have as much. Okay. The for in statement, kind of a shame, because for in is used in Python for a different purpose. Okay. This is for enumerating the properties of objects. So the for in statement works with objects, not arrays. We've got a separate one for arrays. Okay. Don't get them confused. Okay. So what's an example? Here's an object. Okay. And I'd like to go through that object and print out the properties. Okay. So what am I going to do? For var, declaring this variable that we're going to iterate over, in my object. So for each time this prop value is going to get the name of name, then topic, then fun. Okay, so this one's really worthwhile to walk through. Okay, so copy the code. So for each time through this loop, property gets the value of name, topic, and fun. What we're going to do then is print it out. So what kind of thing is it going to be? Well, it's going to be a string. Okay. So it can take the value of name and stuff like that. So it's going to be a string. And look at this. We're iterating through, and then we're going to print out the values by not using the dot notation on an object, but using the array-like notation for an object, or what you do with Python dictionaries type of notation. Okay. Property name has the value of Dr. B. Okay, so look at when we iterate through this using the in form of loop, the for in statement, we go through the object. This value that we're iterating over takes a value of each of the member names, properties, values as a string. Okay. Shouldn't have used name here when I'm talking about the names of the members. It gets confusing. All right. Now, when you create your own objects, you control pretty closely what's in it. If other objects are created for you, they may inherit many other properties. So this loop would do a lot more things than maybe you intended. So there's ways to check for that, but we're not going to worry about that just yet. Okay. The for of statement. This is the easier way to iterate over an array. Okay. Since the for in was already used for iterating over objects, they chose for of. Okay. So what will happen, so let's look at this example, my array. We declare the var word. Okay. Remember, variables don't have any type associated with them. They can hold anything. But it's good to use names that kind of indicate what you're going to be putting into it. Okay. We see that this is an array full of strings or words. Okay. So I just chose the variable name word. They'll explain as this loop iterates, word will take the value of each element in order of the array. Okay. So let's copy and paste. Let's program the web. Okay. But this is the recommended way of iterating through an array. You don't need to go and do the let I equal 0, I less than the length of the array, I plus plus tediousness. Okay. Very nice. We're going to have some other ways that are just as nice, even more compact for iterating and doing stuff with JavaScript arrays. But this is the recommended way. Okay, don't go back to crude old for loops. Might as well learn the syntax if you're going to be a JavaScript programmer. Arrays. Creating arrays. There's a number of ways to do it. Okay, I always use this method where you just enumerate it. I have never had a real reason to use new array like this because this is shorter. Okay, so let's be clear of that. Okay, what if you want an empty array? Professor, I want an empty array. Var. Okay, we're on the command line. We don't need that. My array. Oh, it's already equal to something. My array 2 equals an empty array. Oh. Interesting. You can make an empty array. You might ask, how can we put things into them? Oopsies. I don't have it on my list. Oh. Sorry. Yes, I do. Array methods 1. Okay. First of all, JavaScript arrays are super duper powerful. Okay. There's a ton of array methods. Let me show you Oops, that was not what I wanted to do. Okay. Open a new tab. Okay. This page I go to a lot. Why? Because it explains all the different methods, built-in functions for doing things with arrays. You will never write your own search to search an array for a value again. That is completely unnecessary. They know how to do it better and faster. They're going to just ask you, what do you want to search for? Or if it's something complicated, you'll write a little function that you feed to the array. Oh, yeah, that's when we start banding around functions, we get into functional programming. So we're going to get to that later. Okay, so there are a whole mess of things for finding things and searching through arrays. Some will find the item, some will give you an index, some will check if the array includes something. Okay, so let's see if I still have something hanging around here. My array. Okay, let's program the web. So if I go my array dot, and let's see, let's look includes the word the, it comes back and says true. Wow, we know that's in there. Okay, my array dot includes the word CS351 is false. Okay, it's a whole mess of these things. They'll find out how to use them. Go look at the documentation. We're going to be working with some of these enough that you'll have them memorized. Otherwise, you'll do what I do. You'll go to this page so frequently that your web browser will just remember it. Okay. Now, we had that empty array. My array 2. How can we add to it? There's a bunch of operations, list-like operations, where we can actually push things up and pop things off the array like it's a stack or shift and unshift operation. So when I need to build up an array, I usually just go push high class. Okay, and now my array is going to have one thing in it. Do this again. Up arrow. No. Up arrow. My array push instead of my high class. Code it. Okay. Now let's look at my array 2. So we can build arrays easily and expand them. This is not what we think about arrays from C++ or Java, right? These are really like lists. They have all the functionality and more of Python lists and such. They're very convenient, very powerful. Okay, array of methods. Okay, you can modify, delete stuff out of arrays. Okay, you can do all sorts of wonderful things. You can reverse the order. Lots of ways how you can sort. We will do this a lot. Okay, and we'll do it very general, where we provided a function to tell it how we want it sorted. Okay, and because we're providing a function to a function, it gets called functional programming. But it's very, very practical. Okay, we're going to have a bunch of functional array methods that we're going to learn about using, and we're going to use this a lot once we start manipulating web pages from the document object model interfaces. Okay, so I don't have a lot of stuff to show you in the raw, but in 2 weeks we're going to be using a bunch of these. Okay, a quick overview of control structures, loops, and arrays in JavaScript. We'll be practicing with these throughout the semester. All right, talk to you later.